Did a blog off of it, a podcast off of it, video clip interviews, drop quotes on social media. So we gave each one of them about 20 pieces of content. Some of them up to 5 minutes, some of them just a little quote. And we just own social media space.
I want to introduce you to a project that our team has been working on that has been absolutely a joy to be a part of. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm Ben Pankinen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Social Assurance. And I've had the unique opportunity to travel across the country and meet with some community financial brand leaders who have done extraordinary work over the last year and a half. You know, I've told a lot of my friends that I get this unique front row seat to get to see the great work that's happening in communities across the country. Because, you know, I get to hear some of these stories, whether it be an individual lender who's, you know, pulling out all the stops to try to save a small business, or, you know, a mortgage loan officer who's helping to keep someone in their home. Or it's these marketers and executives who are helping tell the stories of how to support their main streets all across our country. And you know, this has been a particularly fun project for me personally, because I've had this chance to sit down with those people who I look up to as heroes, who are really leading their community in rebuilding. They're leading their community in supporting community-minded financial brands. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity to celebrate those leaders and to be able to share these stories as motivation for all of us to make sure that we're taking care of these communities in the best way we can. So I hope you'll find the inspiration that I have in sharing some of these stories of how these brands have been heroes of their community, how they have really been remarkable. All of these heroes have contributed to leaving their mark and being remarkable. Well, John Oxford, it is amazing to be here with you in Tupelo, Mississippi. What a deal.
What are you doing here?
I'm here to see you, man.
Nebraska's finest in Tupelo, Mississippi, with Elvis Presley's birthplace. We are sitting we're about 10 feet from where Elvis was born right now.
That is pretty amazing to think about. In this last year, who would have thought that at the end of it, I would be here in Tupelo, Mississippi, covering all things banking that we've missed out in the last year. So, you know, I want to back up. We've known each other for 5+ years, hanging around at bank conferences, kind of understanding, marketing and all these things together. But what have you been doing this last year?
It hasn't been as fun as usually when I see you and we're at some concert or happy hour or something in some, cool town, cool city somewhere. You know, if we're in Austin or Nashville or Baltimore or Denver, somewhere, we're always kind of hanging out somewhere cool. But so a lot of remote work, not a lot of travel. I think the family and I ran down to the beach maybe one time, but it's been a lot of the same.
Yeah.
For a lot. So when I got your text, you were in town, I was like, man, something different, a little
right?
Something different. So, but yeah, it's been fine. Everyone's healthy. The bank's held up well. I think our marketing team's done well. A lot of remote working too. I mean, you stopped by, I showed you the office. There's one person in there. I mean, it's a little bit of a ghost town, but everybody's there. So anyway.
Yeah, and you've got 3 kids at home, and your wife here in Tupelo, Mississippi. And you've been with Renasant Bank for how long now?
This is my 16th year, if you can believe it. I know I look super young, so no one would think I could have had a professional job for that long. But yeah, so 16 years. It's been good. Bank's been doing well in Tupelo. We're in 6-7 states now. We moved into the Carolinas with some small shops. So $15 billion. I think we're like the 98th largest bank in the country. So it's a good place to be. Triple P tested us, but we took care of our customers and some new ones, and so I'm kind of ready to. And I know we have the mask off, and we have stuff going, but I'm kind of ready because we're outside too. But I'm kind of ready to move forward into the old normal.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think when I texted you, and I kind of told you too,
I need this too, right? Like there's this sense of like, hey, we've got community around what it is we do, right? Figuring out this bank marketing thing together, I think, is really important. And so I'd love to dive into professionally kind of, where you've gotten to and what you've been up to this last year. Also, you didn't drop, you published a book.
I did. Scary.
Pandemic.
Scary.
So was this something you've been thinking about for a long time? Walk me through that process. How'd you get that out?
I was going to do a coloring book, but then, I could never stay in the lines anyway, so I thought I'd try to write a real book. But anyway, sports went down. I'm a huge sports fan. I'm a sports nut, whatever. I mean, I got the jersey on today from our MLS team. But to the point of, there wasn't a lot going on in the spring of 2000.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting around, what am I going to do? And so I started working on a book, an outline for it. And for those that don't write books, there's 2 or 3 ways you can write a book. There's one is the old timey way where you actually type it. There's another one where you kind of dictate the book. You talk it out, you record it, and then you send it off to a company to then send you back the transcript written out, and then you edit it that way. So you're writing, you're just not writing every single word, but you edit it and then rework it that way, and then get it to a publisher and then send it out. And I self-published because you couldn't travel to sell it to anybody.
Right.
And if I was going to do it online, I don't know if it would have worked. So anyway, I wanted to get it to market fast, and I wanted to keep it all for myself versus taking some money from somewhere else and getting that. And again, I didn't do it to become the best marketing book ever. I did it just basically as a labor of love and to help people out that I thought could glean some value from it.
Well, I think, I think about a book a lot of times is pretty similar to when we think about an artist like Elvis writing a song.
That's a good comparison. Right? Elvis and
it's basically the same thing.
I'm basically Elvis.
But like sometimes we're writing ourselves out of our issues, right? Sometimes we're trying to write ourselves, we're thinking, hey, I've got all these things going on, and maybe if I write it, like it helps me more than it does even the reader, right? But I have read your book, so really good content.
You read it on the plane on the way here.
I did read some of it on the plane.
Yeah.
I did pull it up on Kindle on the plane, but you gave me a signed copy now. So, but I mean, you kind of outlined it in the 4 C's of marketing, right?
That's right.
And you're talking about where marketing really is actionable, which is an interesting way to write it.
I did, and I think, it used to be the 4 P's.
Yeah.
And I think those are kind of dead, and now it's all about what content can you build, and especially during the pandemic, it's got to be content-based because you can't have events. The relationship stuff is really hard to do right now. So it's content, how does it connect, which is, not plugging people. What your company does, you're built around social media.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is the modern channel of delivering content. So it's about the content, then it's about the connection, and then the connection moves to a conversion, and then finally a campaign that encompasses it all. Because if you can't connect and convert, why are you doing it? You can make a great song. Elvis wrote a great song. What if no one heard it?
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any difference. And that builds his audience, then he converts them into purchasing his music, and he gets wealthy, and he moves to Memphis. So, but the point is the same thing with the book is when we as bank marketers create content, we have to deliver it over social media to find our audience, our target, and then it has to convert. And so, and then I wrap it in a campaign of everything needs a campaign with these C's built into it. And so I just felt like it was something I could share with the world. Again, somebody might take a little nugget out of it. Somebody might read it and be like, whatever. But, I didn't do it it's not my livelihood. I have a great career with Renasant. It was a little side hustle, and it's led to a little bit of extra college funding for my kids.
Yeah.
So it's been good.
That's awesome. And now, but you got started in marketing as a taste tester, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So kind of accidental marketer from that. Some of us get our sort of taste in marketing in different ways, right? In sales or different areas, and you were literally a taste tester.
When I was 17 years old, Nabisco came to our school and interviewed students for like 5 spots on some type of focus group thing. And they said, if you do well at it, there's potential opportunity to do more. And so I guess I was opinionated. I didn't have braces. I remember that was one thing. I had them off. You didn't have braces. I was opinionated, and they did like some type of little taste. And actually, weirdly, my wife would tell you this, I have a really strong sense of smell.
Okay.
And so it all worked well for the job. So I interviewed. They hired me. I did like 4 or 5 focus groups, and they got to this next level where they would bring commercials out, and you'd watch them. You'd rate them on a clipboard how you thought the commercial would convince you to match the product, so there wasn't any like confusion.
Yeah.
And then they'd take your notes, and it was funny too because they would pay you in cash, and because you could only work for 2 hours at a time because you can only eat so much food, it was really high paid. So it was like $75 an hour for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But at 17, I'm wealthy. So all my buddies would mow lawns all week during the summer and work on the weekends, and I could just go work for like 2 hours a week and make almost as much as them, and just like, hang out, do whatever I wanted to do. And it was, air conditioned inside, got to eat nice foods, and then like rate them by commercial or the jingle or the radio spot, whatever. I would look at the campaign and I would rate them. So at 17, I guess I accidentally stumbled into becoming a marketer because I still vividly remember the process, remember doing it, and it's what we do today. You look at a checking product, is it compliant, is it truthful, does it do it as, and then what's your audience, how do you communicate it, what channels do you use, and then how do you tweak it and test it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's all the same. You were learning that at 17, but before that, you've referenced that your dad was in marketing.
He was.
And so how did you get exposed to that sort of conversation? And I mean, I grew up in an entrepreneurship household, and I remember a lot of those conversations young.
Oh, yeah.
But how did that work in your family?
So my dad was head of corporate comms for Lowe's, the hardware franchise. Wow. So we grew up in the corporate headquarters, which at the time was in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And it's moved to around Charlotte now, but it was in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And so for years, he did all their annual reports, all their investor relations. He did part of their campaigns, and he had marketing as part of his job. And so oddly enough, I would, as a kid, if my mom couldn't go because I was the oldest child, a lot of times I would go on trips with him. And he took me to Hong Kong and China with him when they were doing purchasing deals. I went to New York with him twice. And so I kind of got like a free internship. But I was just a kid, but I would listen and hear, and through osmosis, I kind of picked up on how it worked for the do-it-yourself hardware company. And they went public with their stock, and so I was there for like a lot of that stuff. Now I wasn't there, but like as it got bigger and that company grew from just a little small town hardware store to being like a major company. I mean, it and Home Depot, Lowe's and Home Depot are it. It's like the Coke and Pepsi of hardware. And so as it grew up, I got to watch my dad grow with the company, and I remember sitting there and watching he and some of his friends, write the annual report. They'd meet on the weekends and go through the pictures and pick the pictures for it. And I watched all that, and so I guess, people kind of do as their parents do at some point, or they learn from them. And I guess I picked up on it, not on purpose, but it just kind of rolled with where my senses went.
Yeah, that's an awesome story to understand. Just kind of, you were exposed so young to this, and then you get in Renasant Bank, and you guys have been growing the last at least handful of years.
We were $2.3 billion when I started, and we're $15 billion today. So I mean, pretty good growth over 15 years.
Phenomenal.
And it's all because of me. Just want to make sure everyone watching this knows.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this is a part of Community Heroes, and so clearly. I mean, $13 billion worth of growth. I mean, look at this. Right, exactly. So when we gotta, come up on COVID, you had a lot in the queue. I remember watching your social media beginning of 2020. Your marketing plan was stacked for 2020. Can you walk us through a little bit of where you were before that hit?
Yeah, I should pull up the Airtable calendar and just let you go, oh my God, look at the stuff you didn't get to do. So that's the cool part, is we've kind of got a plan to rehash stuff we like. But the biggest thing was the jersey. I mean, I'm wearing it, obviously, and you can laugh about it, but we had just...
But MLS, we've just
done
got
a huge deal.
Yeah.
First game, 60,000 people, largest soccer game in the history of the state of Tennessee, which I don't know if that's saying a lot or not, but the point is, huge deal. We signed Kirk Herbstreit as a brand spokesperson. We had just done Rise with Renasant, a women's empowerment deal. We had a conference we were doing for Rise with Renasant. We signed 2 golfers on the LPGA and PGA Tour. And it wasn't just all sports. We've done the Say It Southern podcast now, which is 2 ladies that talk about women's entrepreneurship and travel around the South and do culture stuff in the South. We had done SEC Shorts, which was the football show. So some of it was sports, but a lot of content built up. There was more than just the branches open or closed, or look at the new hire downtown, or look at our new branch opening. It was a lot of really good engaging content. And again, I took this from David Beebe, who spoke, the former head of marketing for Marriott, used to say, why be the commercial when you can be the show? Yeah. And so we want to be the show in our content. And so we drive it through social media. That is one of our key channels. I still to this day think social media is underrated as a marketing channel. Still to this day, at least by banks.
Yeah.
I think we're in 2010 where people in 2010 were and where they are now compared to bigger brands and bigger companies like what Wendy's does, and car dealerships and sports teams do. Like, we're still in the infancy of using social media, and I'm afraid when we get good at it in the next 20 years, it's going to be something else. The banks will have to pivot again, but by then you'll have sold your company and become wealthy entrepreneur, and I'll be retired and we'll be traveling somewhere.
We're going to do the same thing.
Exactly.
It might not be at this house, but we're going to do it somewhere else. I think the engagement that you're talking about, right? Coming into 2020, you had a lot queued up. You were ready to go. You got the word, and now there's no MLS. Right?
Well, not only that, our team was one of the two that tested for the most COVID cases and didn't get to go to the MLS's back cup. So when it came back, we didn't even get to come back. We had to wait an extra 2 months to get back into MLS. And then we did, and we finished the season with 17 or 18 games with very light crowds, 5% allowed. And and a major investment by our company, and a major investment with them and us. I mean, being their official bank, there's a lot of relationship to that, and it crushed us. Crushed us not to do it. Not crushed us financially. I mean, we did great, but my point is, like, we built so much content around this. Again, Curb Street, fans, jerseys, debit cards, like the whole deal. And that was probably a third of what we were going to do in 2020 as far as like a big project. But it ended. But look, what I was most proud of is we did a project unknowing that the pandemic was going to hit called Meet the Bankers. And what we did is we went around to every market and we interviewed like 5 or 6 bankers in each market. We ended up doing 70 different bankers. And look, it was just like this. We just interviewed them. We did a blog off of it, a podcast off of it, video clip interviews, drop quotes on social media. So we gave each one of them about 20 pieces of content. Some of them up to 5 minutes, some of them just a little quote. And we just owned social media space for probably from about April of 2020 to about August. We ran that campaign. And so we were still in front of our customers even when we couldn't be in front of our customers. And it was complete luck. We were just building this campaign. We'd done all this content. We'd had it kind of built up, ready to go. And then COVID hit, and I was like, well, what are we going to do, guys? And I said, we've got this campaign sitting here. This our bankers. Let's do it. And so it did really well. It got thousands and thousands of impressions and views, and our bankers got business off of it. And it was like, look, if I can't go to my customer, I'll just send them a video of what I'm talking about, share my expertise. So Meet the Bankers was our kind of our punt that ended up being a good punt during the pandemic.
Well, and part of that pursuit, right, is that we need to be approachable as bankers, right? We need to have that connection with our communities, and I think that's one of the things that we want to talk about is, right, how do you make that happen when you can't do handshakes, right? They're not really fashionable in 2020, and now, going forward, not everything's going to go back in the same box, right? So, it looks like you stumbled on something that really has worked in making that connection.
Yeah, it's not text message banking, text message marketing. Look, I'm out on that. What y'all do is what it should be.
How about LinkedIn? How about I'll just spam your LinkedIn messages.
It's the old joke, marketers ruin everything. I mean, I loved LinkedIn, and now like 1 in every 100 in-mails is like of legitimacy or something that I actually need.
Right.
It's a form of social media. I still think, I think Twitter is underused as far as an informational channel because it's like news. That's where people get their news now. Facebook is where they go to purchase stuff and check on their family. I think you can sell over Facebook better than banks ever had. Twitter's news information. LinkedIn is just a job search engine now to me. I mean, but I post on it. I like it for content. I think you can glean a lot of information from it. I don't think it's a sales platform as much for bankers. It might be for others selling to banks. And then I think the newer stuff, I think Instagram's great. I think showing a vision that's really easy to get, because with compliance in banks, we always we make things too complicated. And Instagram's not complicated. It's a picture. You can get it. And then TikTok, we mentioned that earlier, and some of the newer short forms, Clubhouse. I mean, I don't know about that yet. I mean, I feel like I'm just getting on a conference call I wasn't invited to.
So like kind of sneaking into it.
You like hop on and they're like, John Oxford is in the club. I'm like, no, I don't want to talk. I just want to listen and be quiet.
Pretty soon they're going to ask if you can see your screen or something.
It's just weird. It's like, but yeah, so I still think, as far as, I mean, people, if you look at what they're on their phone 8 hours a day now, and they're surfing the web, and they're surfing social media. And so I think banks need to be proactive and get on there.
Well, John, I know we are not through my tour of Tupelo. You laid out an agenda of other things I need to see while I'm here. But this is a really fun start to get to see.
I mean, this is where it started. This is Elvis's birthplace. Yeah.
We also found out that that his daddy ended up in prison for a while. Maybe owed something to a bank.
So yeah, the story is his dad sold a hog, and he sold it for $4, and he wrote a 0 behind the 4 and tried to cash the check for $40. And there's 2 banks in this town, us and another one, that are old enough that it was probably one of our banks that turned him in. I don't know if it was us. I don't know if it was them. Neither one of us are going to admit it. But somebody got him put in jail. And so when he went to jail for 8 months in Parchment, Mississippi, when he got back, they were a little ashamed of it. And so in the cover of night, because I think he had some debts too, they loaded up and moved up to Memphis when he was 13 or 14 years old, around then. And but Elvis didn't hold it against the town. He came back in the 50s, did a huge show here with Heartbreak Hotel as his #1 hit. And the legend was born. So it was born here. But if it wasn't for those banks, Memphis would have never gotten Elvis. So they owe us.
That's
they
right.
Owe us.
Absolutely. So great tribute to Elvis. And we talked a little bit about his marketing. You even referenced that in your book about Elvis being a phenomenal marketer. Maybe stole a few ideas, but we all sort of steal like artists, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, no one owns originality. Now make sure you clear it with your lawyers and compliance. We don't need anybody getting sued here. But he took a lot of ideas from other people. He took a lot of his songs from the black community. Shake Rag here in Tupelo, he'd go down and hear the gospel songs, and he took that and then he melded it into his own marketable way to sell that. And then the gyrating hips and all the stuff he stole, and it goes up the line. Tina Turner, the Rolling Stones stole all their stuff from Tina Turner. Their dance moves, Mick Jagger would watch her when she'd open for him. He stole their moves. So you got all this kind of like everyone steals from everybody and makes it better. We didn't invent mobile banking, but we try to make it better. Same thing. You didn't invent social media, but you make it better for banks.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing. And then when it comes to marketing, how can you exploit what you've made better or make it better with content? And then how do you find your audience and deliver it? And so Elvis was a master marketer, and the Colonel, his manager, just from the Rhinestones to him going to the Army to doing movies. He was kind of what you see now, how stars get into different lines of entertainment. Rappers are then in movies, or movie guys want to sing and be in bands. I mean, so, everyone wants to do the different thing, and he was the first one to do that. I mean, he did it all.
Yeah. John, thanks so much for the tour. This has been phenomenal, and to get to hear a little bit about how you've really led your community, not just as a banker, but also really extended that, writing a book and publishing that into this community of bank marketers. I just want to thank you so much for your contributions to all of that.
I appreciate it. I'm glad you came down to make sure I'm still alive and doing okay.
You're looking great,
Trying to keep the girlish figure, stay in shape.
Well, thanks, John.
Absolutely.